Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. Released July 3rd, 2024. Released on Netflix. Directed by Mark Malloy. Written by Danilo Bach, Daniel Petrie Jr., and Will Beal. Starring Eddie Murphy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Taylor Page. Rotten Tomatoes score, 65%. Metacritic, 55. IMDb, 6.7. Welcome back to Real Reviews. Like always, I am your host, Lee. Today we are talking about Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. the fourth film in the franchise. The last one came out 30 years ago. This was honestly a movie I was looking forward to. It was one of my favorite franchises back then. But let's talk about it. One thing I think this movie does very well is it brings that comedy back from the originals. That is certainly helped by Eddie Murphy still being the same charismatic actor he was then, just older. That age does bring with it new characters like his estranged daughter Jane and the evolution of all the settings such as Detroit and Beverly Hills. One thing in movies like this, that are revivals of prior franchises decades after the prior film but with the same lead, they really have to depend on being able to get back at least some of the previous cast members, and this one nails it. Judge Reinhold, John Ashton, and Bronson Pinchot all coming back to reprise their roles. Another critical part is bringing in new characters. Fill out your cast with newer or more current talent. Joseph Gordon-Levitt being the embodiment of this. One issue I have with this movie is that Axel still starts in Detroit, and I realize that it is the formula the prior movies always worked on. But in this one they note that he had to get his family out of Detroit, but he stayed for whatever reason. On to the questions.
In what ways does the film incorporate modern themes or social issues that resonate with today's audience? How are these themes woven into the plot?
Honestly, this is one of those ways that the movie shows the age of the franchise because it makes fun a lot of the modern evolutions of society. This includes not being able to say whatever you want, and cops not being able to lie on reports and things. The main way in which this is woven into the plot is kind of pointing flashing red arrows at the bad guys who are the most vocal about it.
How does the dynamic between Axel and new characters introduced in this installment affect the narrative? Are these characters well integrated into the story?
Pretty quickly, it moves to Axel working with his daughter Jane and Detective Bobby Abbott. The chemistry is pretty good. It works well with the father-daughter, ex-boyfriend dynamic.
How does the film balance nostalgia for the original series with the need to appeal to a new generation of viewers? Is this balance successful?
The main points of nostalgia are the characters and it being set up like an 80s action movie. It has all those classic trappings. It does a good job working within those constraints, but it doesn't elevate those to make something new and exciting. Another thing they do is toss in a bunch of actors that were much more popular in the 80s and 90s as cameos.
Reflecting on the film as a whole, what could be its potential impact on the legacy of the Beverly Hills Cop franchise? Does it revitalize the series or rely on past success?
Honestly, this movie is a good and faithful sequel, and they pretty much aced everything that made the originals enjoyable. I don't think this will relaunch the series because, well, Eddie Murphy is in his 60s, although since he doesn't do as much physical work as other actors in action movies, and since his role is mostly comedy, we can't really rule that out. I am going to be pretty straightforward with this. If you like the original franchise, or you like action comedies, this is probably right up your alley. The acting is right up there with what you expect from these types of movies. The characters are done well. The bad guy is basically a walking trope, but the movie kind of makes fun of that. The only real issue with this movie is the blood graphics, and it is because they are graphics and not something like a squib pack. I think they noticed it wasn't great because almost every single scene where they shot someone it cuts away from them quickly. When they do things practically like bullets impacting with surfaces, these things don't look bad at all. The characters work pretty well in my opinion. Axel is still goofy but clever and driven. The bad guys are still dumb and overconfident, etc. But these wouldn't work in another type of action movie. They only work here within the constraints of the genre. So on my rating scale, it got a 7 out of 8 or an 8.75 out of 10. Like always, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe. I typically have at least 2 videos out per week, real reviews like this one or AI reviews depending on releases. Tomorrow will be a real review of Despicable Me 4. Until next time.